On this night, we gather to remember. We open our hearts and minds to relive the pain and the victory which have become for us the doorway to the eternal. We recognize the shadows which encroach on every life and meditate on that one moment in history when the shadows seem to extinguish the light entirely. We come in awe to worship, for the darkness has never and will never overcome the light revealed in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ.
We confess in order to be honest with ourselves and to be made right with God. Though our current separation prevents our unison confession, God hears each of us and knows our hearts. Believe the truth that as Jesus remembered the penitent thief, so will Jesus remember us.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your
To those who are perishing, the message of the cross is foolishness. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. It is forgiveness and the promise of new life. Thanks be to God.
I don't know when it happened, but things changed somehow. At first, he was strong, confident, and outspoken. I had such high hopes. Finally, a leader to throw off the Romans. But just when the time was right, at the height of his popularity, he withdrew. He became quiet, almost introspective. I thought a bit of a push would help him to reach for greatness. You know, a pass on a bit of information about his movements, and then watch him rise to victory when they came for him. Only it didn't work out like that. He let them take him. "You'll betray me, Judas," he said. I wonder how he knew. I thought I'd been discreet, but I surely didn't expect it to turn out that way. Lord, have mercy.
He was such a unique boy, my nephew, cousin to my sons James and John, but more of a friend to them really, and to me. He was always caring, always serving, always putting others first. I remember when I asked him if my boys could sit on thrones with him in his kingdom, one on his left and one on his right. "Salome," he said to me, "the great ones in God's kingdom are the ones who serve. Even I have come to serve and to lay down my life." I felt rather humbled that day. It's incredible that in his time of agony, praying all alone, the ones he served so well couldn't serve him in return. Not for one short hour. There they were, my sons and Peter, all asleep while Jesus cried and sweated blood. But then again, none of the others of us were any better. Alone he prayed, "Father, take this bitter cup away from me. But if that's not to be so, then not my will, but yours be done." Lord, have mercy.
That was a dark night. We didn't expect those terrible things. Perhaps we should have foreseen it, prepared for it. Maybe then we would have reacted differently and stood with him through it all. But we didn't understand. So there we were, Peter, James, and me, fast asleep, oblivious to his pain. And suddenly he's waking us up. And there was Judas, and lights, and swords, and soldiers, and they were arresting Jesus. We were no match for them, and they would have taken us too. We were terrified, and so we ran away, all of us, and left them to face their swords alone. Lord, have mercy.
What was I thinking? I expected so much more from myself. Oh, at the table it was easy. When Jesus talked about being betrayed and arrested and dying, I was angry and protective. I'll fight for you, Lord, I said. I'll die for you. I thought he was just frightened and emotional when he replied, "No, Peter. Before the cock crows 3 times, you will deny knowing me." Deny him? I wouldn't have thought it possible. But that was then. Now I know it's true. When it finally came down to it, I couldn't fight for him. I couldn't die for him. I couldn't even answer the question, yes, I know him. I follow him. I believe in him. And as they led him away, he looked at me. Those eyes, I expected anger and judgment, but there was only love. In his eyes, there was only ever love. Lord, have mercy.
People were curious about my devotion to Jesus, but it's easy to understand, really. I lived with accusations all my life. Mad woman, evil, possessed. They said it all and more. And much of it was true. But Jesus, he didn't accuse. He didn't judge. He didn't make any demands or require anything. For the first time, someone saw past the pain and brokenness to my soul and gave me the freedom I longed for. Of course I was devoted. Ironic that the one who accepted and included all without accusation should be forced to hear lies about himself, should stand alone and face all those pointed fingers. The one whose only crime was acceptance, sentenced to death on the force of false accusations by the ones he sought to love and heal. Lord, have mercy.
Somehow, I've developed a reputation for doubt and questioning. A little unfairly, I think, but I do confess to being confused and uncertain, especially at the end. I mean, he healed the sick. He raised the dead. The whole nation was eating out of the palm of his hand. Then suddenly they were shouting, "Crucify him." With all his power, he just stood there. And then, when the soldiers mocked him, he took it all. They stripped his body, torn from terrible flogging, and pretended to worship him as king, with a crown of hard Judean thorns. They hit him and spat on him. How was I to understand this? He could have snuffed them out in a heartbeat. But he didn't. He just let them mock. Lord, have mercy.
Should I have known that moment would come? There had been death threats from when he was a baby, and he'd spoken about his death more than once. Maybe I should have seen it, but nothing can prepare a mother to watch her child die. I have no idea how I got through that day. My son, sentenced to crucifixion, a slow and most agonizing death, executed between thieves, my son, who had done nothing wrong. And in the face of it all, he forgave them, forgave all of us. Then he cried out, "It is finished." And as I watched that last breath leave his body, it was like it was me dying up there. Lord, have mercy.
Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord?
May Jesus Christ, who for us became obedient unto death, even death on a cross, keep you and strengthen you this night and forever. Amen.